Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Today is March 11th, and this is another of our bi-weekly SIG CLI meetings. My name is Maciej, and I'll be your host today. When it comes to announcement, there's only one. Due to coronavirus spread across the globe, KubeCon EU was postponed. The last update is from March 4th. From what I checked earlier today, it is proposed that it'll be held somewhere in July, August, but no date has been posted as of yet. So you'll have to follow the news on that topic. KubeCon China was entirely canceled, but KubeCon North America is planned to take place as initially planned in November, if I remember correctly. That's pretty much it for the announcements. Maybe one other important thing is we're in the code freeze mode, which means only critical bug fixes for 1.18, which are stabilizing 1.18 release or are fixing the tests. So if you got pinged about fixing some tests, make sure to handle those with as your top priority. And other than that, I think we can move on to the main topics. So I see customize. So I guess Jingfang will take it over from here.
Are you on?
Oh, hey, Phil. Yeah, we hear you. Go ahead.
No, I was just asking if Jingfang is on. Her name's on the list, but I.
Yes, she is on the list. That's why I assume. But
nice. Good thing.
Hey, sorry. I was trying to interject. I was double muted. This is Matt McEwen. Nice to meet you all. I added those couple.
Oh, okay.
So I can speak to them. I'm happy to let someone else drive, but I can speak to those.
No. If you added those topics, go ahead. I just assumed that Jingfang, since she's always taking care of the customize, so I assume she added those. But if you added those, go ahead. The floor is yours in that case.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Can I just ask anyone who adds topics to the agenda, would you just throw your name off of it or as a point, both so that you can drive the discussion, but also so that when folks look back at the notes, we know like who to contact about that.
Yeah.
Because maybe the last one's Sean or something, is my guess, but whoever it is, please throw your name. All right, thanks. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so my team's interested in some sort of discussion and some early work in Kustomize that was done around something called the replacement transformer. And the goal of that thing was for basically to have source documents and destination documents and be able to to have some rules defined as the plugin configuration that would be able to map stuff from one document into another document at the specified JSON path, as well as being able to map in, constant values and things like that. So a substitution replacement kind of solution on top of everything else that Kustomize does. And it was well received in its GitHub issue, and there was an initial implementation of it that was done that we played with a little bit, but it was done as an example plugin, and so it was put into the example plugins directory, and it clearly has some boilerplate organization kind of stuff in there, like geared toward being an example. So I just wanted to see if anyone here is aware of what the plans are for that replacement transformer, either in terms of are there plans to take it forward as a built-in plugin for Kustomize instead of just an example? Or will that example be maintained as something with a stable interface, or is the intention just for operators to sort of clone down that example and roll their own?
I can hazard a guess. We'd want Jeff on the call. He would be able to give a more canonical answer because he typically drives a lot of the customized API pieces. But I've been talking with him quite a bit lately about this sort of thing, and I can definitely answer the question after this one. The replacement transformer a little less so, but given that, I'd say there's a sort of class of problems around vars and substitutions, and replacement transformer seems like it kind of falls into that category. This particular use case has been asked for a lot. I think being able to do substitutions is something that definitely a lot of folks are asking for. It was originally out of scope of Kustomize. I think we are pretty clear up front, or at least there's a number of documents, I think, where we say that that is not within the original kind of in scope, I guess I'd say, although I don't think it's like a hard scope, but it definitely wasn't what we were originally trying to solve. That said, it seems like it's part of the problem. And one of the things Jeff and I have been going back and forth on is as we see more folks developing their whole system around Kustomize and kind of, so this is a piece where it's like your Kustomize is becoming kind of like your system, or the key part of your system to do deployment. I think one thing we're going back and forth on is, do we try and add these features, such as this one, to Kustomize, right, and really make it so Kustomize is kind of your closer to a platform or closer to a framework than it is now? Or do we go the opposite direction, which is we try and figure out how to make Kustomize compose better into other platforms and other frameworks, and so try and figure out solutions where instead of doing the replacement as part of Kustomize, we look at other tools which then do replacements into customized patches, for instance. So an example of that would be the setters, the early work being done in setters. I'm not saying this is the answer. Setters were actually also targeted at a different use case than this particular one, but I think it's an example of like a different philosophy, right? Which would be, should another program be replacing things in customization files ahead of time, and should Kustomize facilitate being plugged in there? I don't know the answer. Is any of that context helpful? Yeah,
it is very much, and appreciate it. And totally, I totally understand and don't disagree with at all the idea of having, wanting to have a limited philosophy. And so if this kind of thing, if the decision is made for it for Kustomize not to be a good home for it, then that's fine. Then we would need to, create something, as a standalone kind of tool. But like you said, this is something that a lot of people need. So it would still probably make sense for it to be a standalone tool or something that many people could use. Just whether or not it's in scope for Kustomize proper, I think would be a different question, right?
Totally. Like, my ideal outcome here would be that you get everything that you want out of the customized transformer, but there's another tool that seamlessly composes with Kustomize, right? And then you run the two together, one after another, or something like that. Then that provides a path forward for if someone doesn't like the way the replacement transformer works, or they want a different variant of it, it's a lot easier for them to develop that than it is if it becomes a built-in. Maybe we can schedule a follow-up conversation for that. Jeff and I are going to be digging, so that there's actually a broader piece I think this kind of folds into, which is kind of looking at the customized architecture as it was originally developed, what people have asked for, what problems people are trying to solve it with it, and then figuring out like what is the right way to evolve customize in order to address all those issues that maybe weren't originally in scope, right? And which philosophy. And so maybe we could have a it might make sense to schedule like an open discussion on that.
Yeah, I'd definitely love to participate in that and dig in a little deeper without monopolizing the whole SIG CLI meeting. For background, myself as well as Sean, who's on the call, are from the Airship project, and back in the day we had community-oriented Airship, but Airship umbrella projects for doing a lot of these things, and we had a project called Deckhand that that would do all the layering kinds of tasks that Customize focuses on, as well as substitution and replacement kind of tasks. And we're working on the next version of Airship, which we want to be much smaller, and which we want to leverage a lot of the sort of common community projects that have grown up in the meantime. And so we've selected Customize as the right sort of thing with a lot of oomph behind it to solve for all of our layering needs, and we're just sort of trying to figure out what can fill that gap for the variable substitute placement, as well as the tree. Even the hardest thing, the least commonly implemented thing, seems to be the replacement and substitution, which is important for our use case at least as well. So yeah, we're happy to collaborate on whatever the right solution is, but since we already have our own granted open source, but maintained by us solution, we're hoping that we can get a little bit more buddies involved in developing and maintaining this thing.
Well, what do you think of the end of March? Does that seem like a good time?
Yeah, I think so. And we're also not blocked. We're gonna at least start with our own replacement transformer solution, and probably hack a few more features into it, at least to get us started. But we're not necessarily going to try to make it a long-term or prod grade kind of solution yet, but just something to help us keep getting movement going forward. But yeah, so we can keep working on that until we all kind of agree what the best path forward is, and the end of March works great.
I'll plan on scheduling something. We're kind of due for one anyway.
Thank you.
How about just doing this during the next SIG CLI? That's literally in 2 weeks, so that'll be March 25th.
We could totally do that. Is it all right if we just monopolize the whole meeting?
I don't see any objection doing this one. I was looking at the schedule for 118. There's no schedule for 119. And basically the 118 schedule ends pretty much around that date. If I remember correctly, 26th Thursday is when they are planning to release 118, which basically means we would not start 119 sooner than that date, or close to that date, or which basically means at the beginning of April we'll be doing 119 planning for SIG CLI. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of folks might be interested in. What we could do though is maybe send out an agenda and an information to SIG CLI that the next meeting in 2 weeks will be devoted to Customize entirely. I don't see any objection on that one.
Totally. I think people will want to know.
Exactly. And
all right. I like that idea.
Yeah, and I'm trying to minimize the amount of meetings overall. Yeah. So, and I know that people would appreciate not having to go to yet another meeting.
Right.
I know that I do. Okay, cool. Thanks.
I'll touch on I can quickly answer the functions piece. Yes, they serve similar roles. There is a plan to unify these things. I don't think there's any urgency around it. It's mostly going to be around formats. Functions, some background. Functions are effectively inspired by customized plugins, but also inspired by meta-controller. And where functions come from is a decoupling of the logic to apply a set of operations to a collection of resources from the particular environment that happens to be needed in. So, like, for example, in customize, the environment is reading from customize resources and using customize as a orchestrator for applying a series of transformations, right, that are configured, that are implemented as these plugins. However, in meta-controller is the orchestrator, and the source is not a customized resource target, but instead is the API server, right? And they're written back to the API server, whereas customized plugins are written to standard out, right? But in both cases, the architecture is the same, right? Functional, here's a list of resources that need to be evaluated and either deleted or added or modified in some way. Here's the configuration that defines how to do those operations and then write them out to someplace. So functions, there's two pieces right now. There's like a spec, a function spec, which is how can we define sort of input output that one could begin to write a program in and that we could then drop into different environments. The vision is this would be customized. This would also be meta-controller. This would also be KubeBuilder, right? It would be insert your system here and then drop in the function and it runs. CI/CD systems, Tecton, whatever, Jenkins. The other part is the runtime. Right now, the only supported runtime for functions is containers. We started out with this one because it has a lot of nice properties. It supports Jinja, it supports Telm expansion, it supports kubeval, supports essentially whatever system you're using today. You can implement as a function. It means they're a little harder to write, but a lot of flexibility. It means that when they're run locally, they can be run sandboxed. So we can disable the network. We can make sure you don't have write access to disk. We can make sure that you don't have the ability to escalate privileges and that you run as a nobody user. And now your function, now you can download a function and run it, and it's not like downloading a binary and running it, right? It's a lot more restricted than that. Containers support a distribution mechanism, which is kind of like Docker will automatically fetch it for you. They support versioning via tags. So there's a lot of nice properties about containers as a publishing mechanism for these sorts of things. Considering other runtimes, you could consider a endpoint, like a HTTP endpoint that you send the resources to and then get the resources back. That's what meta-controller does. So that's what functions are. Yes, they are basically trying to standardize the interface for plugins and then also enable plugins to be used in other environments. So if you wrote a kubeval plugin to do validation, you could use it in Kustomize. You can also use it in a CI/CD pipeline without Kustomize, these sorts of things.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, and I appreciate the background there too. And I'm definitely sold on the benefits of the container-based approach. So would you sort of foresee long-term? And I know this probably delves into the architectural discussion you want to have next week, but would you see potentially the function-based approach becoming the standard reference approach for all customized plugins, and perhaps then the built-in plugins would migrate to that kind of format in the future?
That's the vision. There's no timeline.
Okay.
We've been hesitant to come out and say it because if we said it, then people would start asking for timeline, and there'd be an expectation that it's like imminent, right? We expect functions are much less mature. We expect them to evolve a bit. We have to figure out when the right time of integrating them into Kustomize would be, and making sure that we're happy with how they are. And then we also need to figure out how are we going to support existing customized plugins. I'd imagine we want to support both, which, you know, like we wouldn't want to deprecate. We want to make sure folks who are writing plugins today, those continue to work. then maybe considering a migration path like with a doc of like, okay, here's, if you wrote your customized function, just wrap it in this binary, exec it with this binary, and then now it's converted to the new format.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff to be thought out, but yes, the answer is having functions as the approach is the long-term vision, possibly continuing to support binaries with outside of a container, but using the function input output format may also be something we want to consider.
Got it. Nope, that's very helpful. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, kube control is the person who put that up here on the call.
I'm guessing that will be the author of the PR that I have open.
That's funny. Okay.
Not sure if he's on the call. I haven't seen his name.
Let's skip that one.
But I'm guessing he just put it here to get attention.
Attention.
So, yeah.
Speak to it quickly.
It's definitely a good approach. I'll have a look at it after the call.
Try and show up, but smart move.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone have any bigger topics that I want to bring up to the attention of the entire group? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the stand-ups in that case. I see that crew has no updates, and I'm guessing that either Cornelius or Ahmed put it here, but I'm not seeing any of them on the call. So Kui, because I see that there's some good news from Nick, so go ahead.
Yeah, thanks all to y'all. We've merged the initial KEP for Kui. We got a small bump in stars. I think we're up to 1,100 now after that. So we're making pretty good progress. I think we're in pretty good shape now. We have a pretty solid React-based component foundation. We're going to work over the next couple of days to flush out the documentation so that we can get additional developers to easily contribute new components or new commands. We'll flush out the documentation in all respects there. The other big thing we're working on is finishing up the whole kubectl plugin story. And we actually ran into one interesting sort of, I don't know, issue that we don't have an explanation for yet. Thought you guys might have some insight. When we launch the Electron executable from kubectl, so if I just symlink the Electron executable to kubectl-foo, and then I say kubectl-foo, the Electron window opens up, but oddly, it doesn't have a dock icon in Mac OS. It doesn't receive keyboard input. Whereas when I launch the very same executable just from Bash, everything is fine. So I was wondering whether the kubectl authors had any insight into, are you spawning the plugins in any particular way that you think might lead to?
I can point you to a particular line in the code, but we are invoking, at least on Unix-based system, we're invoking execv, which replaces the current binary with the binary from kubectl. So it might be a culprit. Maybe we're missing some settings so that it works properly with Kui.
Okay, great. Yeah, that was my hypothesis. It was an exec versus fork issue.
I'll point you to the exact line of code that is handling that one.
Okay,
there are some problems that I probably need to find my way through and fix some Windows-based issues.
Maybe one thing maybe you could do to debug it is just write a small Go main program that does an exec, right? And then we can say, is it like something with Go, or if it works, then at least we have a path to making the kube control plugin work.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think it's probably an exec versus fork issue. So I'll debug it on my own there, and I'll let you guys know how it goes.
I'll definitely point you to the exact line of code where it is being run, and then.
Thanks. Yeah, this came up just like 15 minutes ago, so I apologize for not having done more diligence.
And Mate, did you have anything else, Nick? Because I wanted to add something about Kui at the end.
No, that's mostly it. The working on the docs and the finishing up the last bits of the plugin. The hope is that if we can iron out this exec versus fork issue, then the kubectl plugin for GUI will be the Electron executable itself without any modification. So there won't be any need for an additional wrapper or scripts or whatever. It'll just be the binary we plunk in place. And I know there's still the outstanding issue with how we get the crew, how we get that via with all the symlink issues. That's on my to-do list as well. But we're very close.
Awesome. Machi, I was going to ask, you remember the process for creating sub-projects? Like, I should know this. I've looked all over, and all the docs I say just sort of like, update the YAML, right? Like, but I know there's something more. There's some issue that needs to be filed in some place at a minimum.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Somewhere in org, I'm pretty sure. I'll look it up, and I'll ping the two of you on the SIG CLI channel. I can't remember that off the top of my head either. It's not something that I want to.
It's something that gets erased quickly from your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're happy to do any paperwork diligence. Just let us know. We're happy to take on the work there.
We just need to figure out what the paperwork is.
Yeah, pretty much so.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, I have a small update. I've managed to clean a little bit this scribe in kubectl, something that I've been meaning to clean previously. It's just a code cleanup. If you're vendoring kubectl, you'll notice because the scribe is not split into describe versioned and describe non-versioned, but it's all in a single directory. If you're a regular user, you'll not notice any difference. And a couple similar other smaller issues that I had on my way there as well. Does anyone else have any things that I want to share with the group?
Oh, actually, one thing that we've been working on, maybe we can demo it next time. We've been able to do a pretty good job. I think it's pretty nice integration of the kubectl command line help into a graphical form, so that when you're using GUI to execute a kubectl command, if you say kubectl get-h, for example, you'll get a graphical depiction of the very voluminous output that you get from kubectl get-h. And I can demo some of that next time if it'd be helpful. But I think that I'm hoping that when you see it, it might spark some imagination bits, because I think there's some opportunities there of how we can slot in even richer information to help guide people through the learning process of the command structure and how the commands are related. And I think even just presenting them in this kind of hierarchical form like we are now, I think goes a long way. But I think there's probably a lot more that you all as a team can help us craft.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Are you aware of the CLI utils work being done?
No.
So there's the next generation set of kube control libraries and commands being developed in CLI utils. And so this has stuff that I think overlaps a bit with information you'd want. So for instance, one of the things being developed is a rich notion of status. Okay. And like propagating status up from a pod. If you create a deployment, like knowing one, that deployment isn't ready, and two, it's because the image can't be pulled or something like that. Mm-hmm. Those seems like things that you'd probably want. Because I know you do some walking of structure anyway.
Yep.
So those tools, we probably want to think about what the role those tools might be, because I can imagine you wanting to delegate to some of that logic. Absolutely, yeah. Another thing that came to mind over the past couple of weeks is this notion of tapping in. I know that there's a danger issue here, but tapping into the event stream flowing out of the API server, and so that people have a more live notion of what's going on, either from the standpoint of alerting or just general situational awareness. So maybe next time we can also discuss the danger issues there, like at what level are we tapping into too much information to the fire hose? How can we get just some more situational awareness? With an Electron app, we can put things, for example, in the tray menu, either on Windows or Mac or Linux,
just to get some general sense of what's happening behind the scenes. So if you guys have any insight there as well, that would be great.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you thought about doing any sort of QEs right now is read only, right?
What do you mean by read only?
I mean, it displays resources.
Well, you can do code commands, but yes, other than going to do code create or apply, it's reading.
Have you thought about creating forms or anything like that for editing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things that now that we're a good React citizen, we can very easily pull in any form-based componentry that makes sense. So we're thinking about for whether it's via customize or just generally presenting, even just read-only views, being able to summarize, for example, a resource in a more form-based approach. And I think this may require some user studies. I think that some people, just appreciate information in different forms. Some people just like to see the raw information. Some people will be frustrated by forms, and some people need the forms to make any progress. So I think it requires a bit of consideration. But yeah, forms is definitely on the short list, especially I think in light of all the great work that you guys are doing with Customize. I think there's some interesting overlaps there of threading information through the life cycle from Customize back and forwards, but then also being able to reflect that distinction between the template and the values. I think forms might fit there nicely.
Yeah, we're starting to think about how we can attach more of that information to the resources themselves with Customize. One thing with Customize now is it's a black box, and so you can't spit out Customize you can't spit out of Customize something that then some other tool can read and understand how Customize structured it.
Got it.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to have I always think about when you're in VS Code, you get this little hints about who last modified that line of code, and I think we talk about that at KubeCon, Phil. Yeah, so that having that kind of that provenance or the audit list in the sense of Customize would be pretty neat.
Totally. Right, it's a bright future.
Yeah, no, exciting. Yeah, thank you. We can talk. I can give maybe some demos next time if there's any time, just to show our.
Yeah, we can either time box that at the beginning and then dive into the Customized discussion, or reserve some time at the end.
Okay. I've noticed that Yao added the kubectl apply generate name and kubectl expose external name. Yao, you want to talk us through?
Hello, could you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm Yao from China, and this is first time I attend the meeting.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. And so I submitted sub PRs to kube control, and now there's two PRs which related to kube control apply and kube control expose. So there's generally the first question is, we know kube control apply don't support an object with generate name, right?
Yes.
So, but when user encounters a problem like this, they will try to use kube control create and to create the object with generate name. So my question is that this is designed to be like this? So like kube control apply, in initial it won't support the generate name.
No. Well, the thing with generate name essentially means create a new instance each time.
Yeah.
And apply is intended to not do that. Imagine a situation where apply should be able to run continuously in a loop. And if there's no changes necessary, it shouldn't do anything, right? But if you have generate name, what does it do? If you just run it in a loop, does it just hot loop creating objects? Or does it not create object the first time and then try and figure out which one it created, but not generate names after that? It's not really clear what generate name should do with apply in that case. Create a new object or use the same one? Neither one seems to make much sense.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah. So it's just a little bit strange when we use the encounter problem like this, because they thought create and apply and generate do the same thing, but actually apply can't do generate name, but create can. So I submit a PR about this, and I don't know if this works because in that PR I give the information that apply can't support generate name to give this information directly to the user.
Yeah, so the PR just updates the error message.
Yeah, and yeah.
That sounds good.
And the second is about the kube control expose. So kube control expose, is that designed to not support the external name? Because we know external name will not rely on the selectors. But the kube CTO or kube control expose will try to find the selectors from the object. So actually kube control expose doesn't support the external name, but it's not written in the doc or it's not written in the help information.
That's possible. I'd say generally the direction that we are headed is, well, definitely away from like kube control run. Like kube control run and kube control expose are probably sibling commands, and they both were introduced early on in the project to give folks a sort of Docker-like, very familiar experience. Neither one is really intended for people to use beyond just learning about the system. And the way we recommend people using the system beyond, like, if they're actually running workloads for real, is to use apply and declarative configuration or some approach like that, rather than directly editing objects in the cluster. That said, I think if you needed something like this, there's create service as well, or there should be, which would also be very limited and probably not have a lot of options. So I guess my question is, why are you using kube control expose?
Because in the help information, the kube control expose state like cluster IP, like external name and other are supported. It's written in the help info. So some user might use, and he definitely used this kube control expose external name and found no matter how you do that, you will never create external name by kube control expose. It's impossible.
Oh, so it says in the docs that you can use it for external name or something?
Yeah.
We should probably just update the docs and not say.
I'm looking at the help of the doc, of the command, and the command, the only thing that it mentions is external IP. There's no mention of external name per se.
I believe, okay, so I will check it later. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate the engagement on these issues. Other people are gonna, if you have these questions, other people are gonna have the same questions. So it's really great that you're bringing them here. And I think on both the answer is that these aren't areas that we need to support, but we do need to explain why they're not supported. And so if you wouldn't mind, if you said you filed some PRs, if you wouldn't mind linking those in the doc, just so that they're easily accessible and don't get lost in the noise, that would be really helpful.
Yep, definitely.
So thank you again, and I'm sure the time's, what time is it there in China?
And it's in the midnight.
Well, thanks for staying up so late. That's even worse than Mache has. Yeah.
I'm in a better option, at least for the next 2.5 weeks until we change into daylight savings, because Europe is a couple of weeks behind. We change on the last weekend of March.
Okay.
No, I think the time for me is okay because normally I sleep every night.
Okay. Well, we're lucky then.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I think with that, we can call the meeting unless anyone raises last minute thought.
All right, so next 2 weeks from now, not next week, but 2 weeks from now, CUI demos of the new hotness and customized deep dive into architecture and direction.
That is correct.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you
Monty.
very much. Have a good one. Bye, y'all.